So the next film we're gonna watch is Julian Sayin. I think this is gonna be the best way to wrap this up with the film for the quarterbacks. And this guy's the more polished guy, I would say. And as Locke mentioned earlier, he is the wild card that they're also paying $1 million about it to bring in who's the transfer from Alabama. But, I think that he is very athletic. He has a good ball. He places it well. He can throw it deep. Uh, I mean, there's not much this guy can't do. He can have a progression where he reads to the third, fourth guy. He can throw over the middle. He doesn't like his actions are good. He's not sloppy. He's not lazy. So there's not much to dislike about this guy, I'd say.
Yep. So I'm going to go ahead and get us into the film here. Just this guy brings kind of the best of both worlds to me. He has the most talent out of the three that they bring, out of the three that they have, at least in my opinion. And I think that I really like what he does. So we're gonna go ahead and get going in it, so we can kind of show you guys his ability to move around in the pocket, scan the field, and then
That
just
ball right there
make just fantastic throws.
on the run gets his body squared while jumping
Yeah,
and
that's up in
still
the air.
like he's
Well, and
jumping.
that's that. I mean, just this play right here, the that is the difference.
Yep.
Because when he makes this, one of the things that you notice, like you can see this if you go watch, the Nico, whether in high school or at in the Citrus Bowl, you see the same thing if you go back and watch the George McIntyre film. This is something that the ones who are absolutely trained for. He runs a flat line, then he begins to approach, and when he does, he whips all the way around. I mean, that this guy is absolutely trained to make this happen. Um, Everything looks different when he does it. His head's moving, he's checking the field, and when you see the play all the way to the end, you have to say, "Wow, that is impressive." And that's, I think, what makes him stand apart.
So we want to talk about just like reading stuff. As soon as the ball is in his hands, his eyes are back over here towards the 30. He's making his first read to see if this guy's sitting down in flats to take away the easy throw from him, and also seeing if the defenders are biting down on the guy who's going to ultimately be releasing. So he sees that corner, he sees the safety. He also looks back over to his left for a second to see if he's got anything in the middle of the field. So that was his second read. Hey, that's not there. He's covered up. I'm being rushed. I got to extend the play. My eyes are downfield. I saw that safety kind of bite up a little bit, so I know I might have a shot in the corner. He sees his guy on a one-on-one, and he takes it, and then he puts it in a spot that only his receiver can get. And like, we cover a lot of good quarterbacks, so we see this more frequently than I think we're almost like an embarrassment of riches because we cover good quarterbacks that can do this, but that is a rare thing to see a guy be able to do in high school, and he does it consistently. So that play, you see multiple things there. You see, good footwork, good training, smart, heady plays, a great arm, great throw, and then he also is reading the field correctly while extending the play. So all of, like Locke said, that one play encompasses who Julian Sayin is, and it's kind of what makes him so good.
So yeah, he's also not playing against slouches. He's from Carlsbad, California is where he's playing. I think that's the private division over in California. Um he he did lose one game this year, and that was the first round of playoffs in overtime, 46-45. So I mean, it's not like he's playing against nobody's out here putting up insane numbers. He only threw for like 2,500 yards with 24 touchdowns and one pick. But I mean, still impressive, especially compared with how much he can run the ball and like where he places his ball. Because I mean, look at that. That's in between three
Four,
people.
yeah, almost four, because this guy's right here too. So that is a tight window, but he knows because he's not just throwing this ball.
No,
He holds it for a second, and you
that's a
see him
split
reading.
second decision between these switch verts right
Yep.
here. So that's all they're running, just switch verts on one side. It's kind of what Tennessee did last year, where one half of the field is kind of dead, which I mean they still do that, but one side of the field is dead for the receivers, the other side is running like a switch verts. Usually it's with a wheel, but this time it's more of a corner and a post. And he just makes the right read here with the open guy. So he can also step up into a pocket and throw over the field and, right over DB's head. So, I mean,
And
this
he's
guy,
really confident throwing into smaller windows and over the middle
Yeah.
of the field. And a lot of the film that we've seen with the quarterbacks, they either they're taught to or they just stay away from middle of the field throws a lot. And he will throw it right in there without any care in the world because he knows he can make the throw and he knows his guys are going to catch him. So you just like seeing that from a guy where he's making the that quick out that ended up being a touchdown we saw in the second play, the deep shot, over the top in the end zone we saw in the first play, and then you see these ones in the middle of the field where he makes two, and then this one I'm going to go back to it just because
what an athlete.
phenomenal athlete. Pocket crashes, his eyes are still downfield. He wanted to throw this ball, but he's got stuff in his way. He's got a guy on his legs. He's still looking downfield. Hey, is there anywhere I can throw this ball? Nope. I'm getting covered up. All right, I'm taking it.
And you know what? He breaks a good number of arm tackles, which says something, especially for runners.
Yeah,
You know,
turns a sack into a 30-yard gain.
So you see a lot of quarterbacks go down with just a touch. So this guy breaks a few arm tackles.
On that run play too, I mean, you don't necessarily have to go back to it, but the thing I like with it is when that first defender is there at his feet, how aggressively he jumps back when he's in the pocket. Like, I guess since you're there, take it back, just that one right there.
Yep.
To me, that's training, because most people will trip up right there. You can almost see him like he's doing like a radical dummy jump. Like, he knows that guy's there. He's got to get over him for that play to work. I mean, what I like so much about him is that, first of all, he looks so consistent when he does stuff.
Yep.
Like, whenever he does just the typical play, it reminds me of a really good pitcher in baseball. It looks the same. I mean, it's almost like, you could run a metronome on how they're pitching the ball. It's like it's the same every single time. Wind up, delivery, everything. Same thing here. I think that's what these top level quarterbacks, their training makes them consistent. Then their film study makes them, like in what Rev said in that first play, they know where the defense is going. They know where their receivers are supposed to be. So you see them run through like the physical aspects of it. You see them process the mental aspects of it, and there's such precision, such smoothness to the way they operate that it just makes them stand out. And and I mean, I know that we'll talk more about it later on, but just watching him, if this translates at all in the summer, and it will, I think this guy you're going to have a hard time keeping him on the bench. That's just my thought, because I mean it's quite impressive what Julian Sayin can do.
So
Yeah.
pass rush right here is coming full force at him. Pocket collapsed. He steps up through it, gets through the defenders. Eyes are still in the middle of the field, and a really tight window.
He rips that one.
He rips that throw.
And
Yes.
he can not only rip it, but the play before that, he had touch over someone's head. And, he can also throw the deep ball. When you can do all three and you're really versatile and you're not limited to one type of throw and you can throw anywhere on the field, that's what makes you special.
So that's something that I think is so undervalued and not really appreciated when you're talking about quarterbacks and their ability to throw the ball, is he knows what kind of ball he has to throw in the route or in the situation. So if it's if it's more up close, if it's a quicker route, or sorry, not a quicker route, but if it's more up in the middle and it's a closer route, receiver hit proximity is what I mean. He's not going to gun his guy down, especially if his guy has space and he has time. There's no reason for it, so he doesn't do it. He has touch on the ball when he's having to throw it over the head. He can throw a missile, he can throw a dart. He also can throw one way up over the heads of the defenders and the receivers, just so it's placed right where it needs to be. And in that last play, that required a missile. He's being rushed. He's having to come up close to the line of scrimmage. He knows he's got to get the ball out, and he knows his guy has a guy right on him and a safety closing down in. Hey, I've got to missile this thing to you because otherwise, this isn't going to go well. So he recognizes what kind of ball he needs to throw depending on the situation, and he does so effectively. And I think that is a higher level thing than people give him credit for, or don't give him credit for.
Yeah, and his action is also very good. I mean, I think we saw all three of these quarterbacks run the same exact play. and he might do it the best. Said that he can roll out, extend plays with his legs, but he can also make great throws on the run,
Hmm.
and have good actions with his fakes. Um, so even going back across the field, like that's a hard throw to make. He's
Yep.
on one hash thrown to the sideline. That's a pretty far throw. So I mean, this dude, he's really special, and I think that Alabama fans saw it when they had him. He got to practice with them for their bowl game. He also placed first in the Elite 11, so I mean, I think they saw it there that this kid is special, can do something really special.
Yeah, I mean, there's a simple out, but he throws that thing right to the outward extension of his receiver's hands. DB has great coverage. I mean, he's step for
Dan
step with
Arnold,
him,
yeah.
and it's still into a place where that DB really can't affect it because it's right at the last reach for the receiver, and the DB just can't get there. And something else in a lot of these plays, I keep noticing his feet. He doesn't have happy feet. I mean, even there he had a little bit, but he's not he settles right here. Okay, I've solid base. My platform is good. I'm making my read. I see this right. I've got to make this throw, and he makes it. And a lot of times when you see other quarterbacks, you see their feet move around a whole lot. They're like dancing back and forth. He gets his feet under him, and then right when he shifts them, he's moving to throw the ball. But until he does that, you don't see him constantly moving around, and you also don't see him cross his feet when he's taking his drop backs. He does his little jumps, he does his steps right there. He's got to move around more, but I like his feet work compared to the other guys that we've watched. Because when he has a pocket that's clean, he sits back there and he makes good plays. And when he's rushed, he makes good plays like this. First
Yeah,
down.
and the saying reigns true, the dead feet, dead meat.
Yeah.
So this guy stays on his feet jumping around. So if he has to in any case, he can spring a run whenever he needs. And with his athleticism, he's able to run and for good yardage, have them drive extenders like we talked about with Will Howard.
So I do want to kind of clarify there because dead feet, where you're just not moving at all, you're going to get caught by a pass rush. You're not going to be ready to be moving around. But happy feet, which is what I don't like, is a guy who's constantly taking a lot of little steps back there when he doesn't need to. What I see Julian Sayin do is his feet are kind of working in succession where he's bouncing back and forth and he's with both feet and he's using that to turn his body and make his reads. And that way he's staying on the balls of his feet. He's staying ready to run, but he's also not complicating his feet back there where, tripping up, nervous or
Mhm.
something else, which is when you're ready to throw, you need to be able to plant and fire. When you have happy feet, that will sometimes mess up your rhythm and your timing. Like you have timings on certain routes in your head that you're hey, this is a 1 2, I'm throwing. And when you move around your feet too much, sometimes your footwork gets in the way of that timing, and you take an extra step where you don't need to. So now you got to compensate for that. He doesn't do that here. A lot of times you'll see him, he bounces, which keeps his feet alive, but doesn't overcomplicate what he's doing. And I love that. And then that one, I mean, he's getting drugged to the ground, and he still has his eyes towards the field, looking for his receiver, finds one, and as he's getting hit, throws the ball.
Yeah, so I mean, he can make a lot of this stuff up just as he goes. He really extends a lot of plays that we've saw here. And that's like I said earlier, that's something that Kyle McCord couldn't do, but you usually see Ohio State quarterbacks able to do. So, I think that's really good and he'll play into their system really well.
One of the good things about him, especially at his age, is or at least in this video. I mean, I know this is a little bit in the past, but he keeps his eyes downfield.
Mm,
And that's another one of the things that I think is hard to do. Is I mean, it's easy to lock in on somebody. It's easy to worry about a rush, but he always has his eyes looking for opportunities. And what I like too about him is something that I had mentioned earlier about what that Aaron Nolan didn't do on one
Mm.
play was when his back foot hit, he wasn't ready to make a
mm,
decision. If you watch him so many times when he escapes a rush stepping up, he's got it in his head that when his back foot hits on that last step, something has to happen. it's not necessarily that, that when your back foot hits, you must throw. It could be when your back foot hits, you need to climb in the pocket because the rush is on you. But that there's something to that just that motion and that momentum of you drop back. Say it's say it's a 3-step drop. You drop back, that third step hits, you get your momentum going forward. So that way, if you throw, you're good to go. That way, if you need to beat the rush, you're good to go. If you need to take off, you're good to go. That only comes through lots of training. And and I know I said that earlier, and and sometimes I feel repetitive saying it again, but that's really what makes these elite players elite. Is it's not just that God in heaven just reached down and touched them and said that one's going to be a stud. That happens, but you don't get to this place without being
Mm.
highly trained, without being, well aware of everything that's going on. So there are, whoever it is, these guys like, McIntyre, Tennessee that recently committed, or, Sayin, who's now at Ohio State, there are multiple people behind them that's making this work out. And, and I say for, a guy like Aaron Nolan, I don't think that has been his experience, and so I think that that's one of the things that um, we all know. We've all coached, and or played even in places that have limitations, and and I don't want to sound disrespectful, when talking about how that we're like, well, Nolan needs to be able to do this, to compete with this. Obviously, he did well enough that that they liked him at the Elite 11, but when you look at this, what I see is that that's a guy working with his his high school coaches who have probably got a team about 70 or 80 kids there. There's a lot on that plate, and so I understand where the development doesn't come in. Is that fair? Maybe not, but is that the way it is? Yeah, it really is, and that's why that guys like Sayin, McIntyre look so much better than the rest of the field, because it matters. And I think that as compared, when you're talking about a guy coming to Ohio State, probably someplace around $1 million NIL, um, when that kind of money is put on the table, I think this is the kind of guy who is going to come to get it. And and maybe that's just my take on it, but I think that one of the things that you will see as big payments continue to be the norm for the top players in college football, I think that you're going to see them just get more and more and more trained, because that is how you get there. And and good for him for taking advantage of the opportunities that he has, because he is he's developed into a heck of a football player before he even steps on a college field.
I was say they done worth $1 million and never even touched the ball on college level.
That's right.
So I mean that's saying something. So Rev, any last words about Julian Sayin?
Just I'm excited to watch him have the opportunity to compete for that job, and uh, work with those receivers, that Ohio State always brings in. He is the full package to me, and his crispness of his footwork and his arm and his, reading in his eyes, all the things that he's got, just make him such a viable, great quarterback before we've even seen him play at the college level. And again, there is a difference. The college and high school speed level is real, and he's playing against good competition in California. Uh, I would I would say in general, the defenses he's going against are not going to be quite as good as some of the defenses that you'll see in Georgia or Florida, maybe Texas. But that being said, as long as he can adapt to the speed of the college game, which I feel like he will not have a problem with, because I think his fundamentals are so good, and he's drilled in the right mechanics to be able to adapt to that. As long as he can do that, I expect him to do really, really well.